this is gonna be about tennis and why I love tennis. I was not a sport person in high school. Like, I didn't play sports. I wasn't athletic type at all. But fucking April 26, 2024, monumental changes in the world occurred. What is that, you might ask? It was the release of Challengers. And I'll tell you why it was so monumental. People don't understand, like, how Western media is, I mean, people do, but don't understand at the same time. The release of Challengers kind of had a domino effect on how the summer of 2024 went. A bunch of stores started selling tennis rackets, they started selling pickleball things. It was like a whole emergence, this sport. And I know this is true because in my local community, you would actually see people playing tennis, and before that wasn't really like a thing. So it started this trend. Even if you look at the United States, Hollywood is known to have the shows and the movies and the stars. So it only makes sense that we disperse and we kind of we are this foundation of trend setting to promote different kind of ways of life or ways of thinking. This is how I got into tennis. The movie features very, very, very conventionally attractive people, and they also simultaneously promote athleisure because it is a movie about tennis, but it's really about major themes regarding competition and love and relationships, which is kind of genius. So like I said, it demonstrates how Western media distributes trends to also boost sales. And I specifically talk about this because I think it's predominant in retail stores like Target, maybe Walmart, but it's kind of genius. I also want to talk about one of my favorite books I have read, but this is Carrie Soto is Back. If you are just like looking for like a little book to read, and you are into sports, 100% recommend, because the book kind of introduced me to the logic that is behind tennis. It's actually page 123. And it talks about the inner game of tennis, and the fact that tennis is ultimately a mind game, and you basically know who's going to win the set by who makes the first point of the match, I think, something like that. So if you hit the ball and you miss, you serve again or whatever, and you make that point, you're most likely to win the entire set because that player is endowed with automatic confidence. And when somebody is endowed with automatic confidence, they have the energy to move forward with the game for the rest of the game and ultimately win it. If you're familiar with the inner game of tennis, you would know the fundamentals. Basically, every pro is not thinking of their every single move. They're not critiquing themselves when they play. They are naturally playing. They are simply just existing in the world of the court, the tennis court. So to really understand this, you kind of need to understand the subconscious and the unconscious brain. And this is also something that the inner game of tennis talks about. And I didn't read the entire fucking book because I didn't need to. I read the first 20 pages and actually highlighted the most important parts, in my opinion. I highlighted the unconscious and the subconscious brain, and how they play a cause and effect between the player. So we know that the subconscious brain stores information, well, stores and receives information, controls automatic actions like breathing and habits, helps navigate the world efficiently, and protects us from sensory overload. This is kind of saying that the subconscious brain, when we get when we are subconscious of ourselves, like we automatically critique maybe how our hair is or our skin. That is our brain kind of protecting us from what we perceive as outside dangers, what we perceive as outside threats. So how this kind of is conveyed in tennis is actually pretty fucking genius. The inner game of tennis is written by a tennis coach, and you can kind of see the lens that they have when they go into teaching varying students. Not everyone has the same way of thinking. So what they had ultimately realized was, when you critique the tennis player more, they actually seen that the performance goes down. Basically, them feeding subconscious thoughts of their performance, and although trying to help, it actually was doing the opposite. Again, tennis is a game of the unconscious. The unconscious stores repressed thoughts, memories, and emotions. It's the source of dreams and automatic thoughts. It contains implicit knowledge, or things we've learned so well that we don't even think about. And then it also includes socially unacceptable ideas, wishes, and desires. So, this is why tennis players, as when you look at some professionals on the court, and this is why I love women's tennis, and specifically the United States, is because it's a game. It's a mind game. You endow the other player with a certain type of confidence when you show on your face that you're distressed or you are losing, when you really know that you're not losing and you actually are winning. But in order to win the set, or in order to make a comeback, you have to kind of leverage that to the other player so they gain confidence, and then you make that comeback by saving up your energy to ultimately make a really fierce move that's gonna secure your win. So I know it's a lot. I hope that made sense though, because I think it's genius. I also wrote to better understand, because I was also trying to understand what the unconscious, subconscious, and conscious is. Basically, psychologists use metaphors to model the mind. Think of it like a cake, and our mind having 3 layers. So for example, breathing is a subconscious process. This is because it is controlling an automatic action. We automatically know to breathe because it's our way to survival. 2, we consciously control it. We consciously know that we are breathing. We know that we need to breathe. We know it is something we need. However, the habit formation is through that subconscious process. Again, it's our way of protecting ourselves from perceived dangers, but you can kind of see how it can be a double-edged sword when it comes to tennis, and having on the back burner all the things that you could possibly be doing wrong. And then 3, suppressed feelings are an unconscious event. So I don't know everything about tennis. In fact, it's just a hobby for me. But I know when I go on the court, I'm most likely going to win against my friends, because I know I'm gonna win against my friends because I'm not even thinking about my actions. I'm not even thinking about how the ball or how I'm serving really. My friends have told me like, oh, you serve really well, and I'm like, well, thank you, but I'm not, when I'm serving, I'm not thinking of it. I'm just doing it, right? That is kind of the psychology behind tennis and why out of all sports, I will sit down and watch, because it is, I could like write a book about how much I just love, there already is a book, the inner game tennis or whatever, but understanding also the processes of the brain, and how confidence is ultimately the key to basically anything. It's something that you learn. It's not something you are automatically born with. Like, no one is born with confidence. No one is born. It's something that you gradually learn as you become an, person, as you learn yourself, as you learn what works and what doesn't work. So that's all I gotta say about that. I think of it like every athlete, it's a pretty bad self-fulfilling prophecy, but ends up hurting themselves because basically set too high of expectations for themselves. And that's why I connected so heavily with Carrie Soto is Back, because although I didn't grow up in the athletic realm, I did in the academic. I set high expectations for myself, and everyone knows that's just a recipe for burnout. Basically, shoot yourself in the foot. So same thing can be applied. Like, I'm talking about tennis, but you can apply it to your real life. Like, that's why I love books. That's why I love reading, because you don't have to make it like so literal. It doesn't have to be so literal. Okay? So that's all I gotta say. But yeah.